Thanks everybody, and welcome to the afternoon session. As Jen said, we'll try to make this spirited and engaging and keep you all awake from right after lunch. Feel free during the session if you have questions, raise your hand. I'm more than happy to entertain questions. We also have time at the end for folks to ask follow-up questions as well. So the title of our session today is How Intelligent Search Across the Enterprise Improves Customer Experience. And Jen shared a little bit about Ellucian. I'll dive just a little bit more into the Ellucian mission. And our primary goal is that we enable student success worldwide. So Ellucian designs, develops, supports software, ERP solutions, add-on auxiliary products, analytics solutions, and everything and anything that you think of to run a university or college enterprise. So our customers are universities worldwide. We have more than 2,400 colleges around the world, and we serve about 18 million students using our solutions. Again, everything from the admissions process all the way through finance, the business office functions of the university, HR, payroll, the analytics, degree planning, and all of those things that you could think of. We are the only company that's focused solely on higher education. We have approximately 2,800 employees. We are headquartered in Fairfax, Virginia, but we have offices, as I said, all around the world. Jen spoke about the unified customer experience, and this is a vision, a strategy, a guiding principle that we have within the company in terms of offering our customers a best-of-breed solution when it comes to customer experience. So we like to say that it's the vision for enabling an effortless customer experience when obtaining information and assistance for Ellucian solutions, bringing more value, better results, and a richer user experience in order to delight our customers. So basically, we have solutions, a number of customer-facing solutions and applications that our customers use on a regular basis as they do business with us. And so the Unified Customer Experience Initiative is all about trying to bring those solutions together in a seamless, unified way and be able to provide that excellent customer service and customer experience that we all expect as we do business with folks throughout our daily lives. And if I could take 3 or 4 lines of the top bullet and sort of synthesize it down, for us, it really sort of came down to search. Because at the end of the day, when someone comes to one of our solutions, whether it's our CRM solution, our software download, our training solutions, our shared code repository, they're looking for something. And in its simplest form, it's sort of about search. And so when we began this journey, our guiding principle has been that it's all about search. A consistent and a uniform way for our customers to be able to access information. Based on the sessions and the roadmap discussions that we've had this morning, I'm already starting to think about altering and modifying that last sentence to now talk about relevance and personalization, because that's really the things that we're going to be getting to next. And it's because we have the Coveo platform that we are able to think more broadly about personalization and relevance and all of those things that were talked about this morning. So it's very exciting to hear the roadmap conversations. I look forward to working with the Coveo team as we continue to broaden our vision. So when we step back 2 years and we launched Coveo in March of 2016, we had 3 primary drivers for what it was that we were looking to accomplish. We wanted to bring together and have a common index of content. We have a number of disparate, I like to say best-of-breed solutions that we use in conjunction to support our customers. But we wanted to have a common index of that content across all of those platforms. From our CRM solution, we use Jive for customer communities. Our corporate website, we have content management systems, learning management systems, SharePoint systems, etc., much like all of you have. We also wanted to improve our case deflection. All of this is about offering a better user experience, but it's also offering a better self-service experience. And all of us have seen the studies, and Louis referenced it this morning. Everybody wants more self-service, and the case deflection fits into that guiding principle as well. And then finally, we wanted to have a better way to measure what we're doing, have analytics and metrics around what we're doing, not only in case deflection, but successful searches and what is working, and be able to identify all of those, that goodness that we're rolling out to customers. So those were our 3 areas of focus for our initiative. So the Ellucian environment, like many of you, it's a number of what I like to again call best of breed solutions that our customers use as they do business with us. So our Ellucian Support Center deals with our cases and our articles and ideas and so forth. Our e-communities solution is our branded Jive instance where we have all of our customer collaboration, our discussions and questions and events and all of those things that are happening in the customer community area. And then a whole host of other apps, from SharePoint to Drupal sites to content management sites and learning systems and shared code repositories and all of these different environments. So we probably have almost a dozen different solutions that our customers are using and no real commonality between any of them. So what did we do? We developed what we have called our branded version of Coveo is eSearch. And so what we have done is we've designed an Ellucian search header that replaces the search box, the search mechanism in the various subsystems, so that from one consistent search experience, customers now have a way to get at the information within the common index. It provides a uniform experience and it offers up a simple and streamlined environment and produces results through the Coveo index page. And then most importantly, not most importantly, but very important, providing analytics and metrics on that usage. So here's what it looks like. And many of you who have implemented Coveo have something very similar. For those of you in the audience who are new to Coveo, and depending on where you are in your implementation, hopefully there will be some information in this presentation that you can take away and use as you think about your implementation. So at the top is this purple search bar, and the Ellucian branded colors tend to be purple, so we've stuck with that theme. And so on top of Jive and on top of our CRM and our other systems, we have this search box. It's very simple, simply typing in your search criteria. That's a new standard that we've designed and developed. We have currently, not all of our systems are indexed in the Coveo index. So we have e-communities, which you see in this tab that's highlighted in purple. We have our support center, and we have Ellucian.com. We are in the, I don't want to say the early stages, but we are still on a journey. Our goal is to bring together all of our customer-facing systems, but it's, we can't boil the ocean, if you will. We have to sort of plan our roadmap in conjunction with the systems that we're working with and with our IT department and other stakeholders across the organization to figure out and sort of slot in when all of the various systems and solutions will come into the Coveo index. So right now we have those 3, and then we have all of the content brought together. And the reason that this is sort of important is that, and we saw this morning in the demo, if I were to launch a search from our e-community/Jive instance, it will default the content from e-communities in the search results page. If I executed that same search through that purple search bar, but I started it from the Ellucian Support Center, the default tab would be the Support Center, and all the content presented would be from the Support Center. Same thing from the Ellucian.com site. But if I'm not sure where the content resides, and this is the beauty of Coveo, I can look at the all content. And there is where I can see that same presentation layer, that same content with all of the content brought together. I'm sorry, the same layout, if you will, with all of that content brought together. The search term is transcript printing, so it is highlighted within the context of that particular returned item. And then we give you some metadata about that. In this case, who the author is, when it was published and updated, the place or the location that that's found, in this case in e-communities, how many likes and views and replies there are. And then we tell you over here that it's a discussion item. If it's all content or things from the support center, then we give you information about whether it's a case or an article or a documentation or an idea. So there are little bits of metadata tags floating through the content, so it gives visual cues to the consumer as to what that content is and whether that is the content that they're looking for, or whether that content might be helpful in resolving the search term or the search criteria that they entered on the top of the screen. And then on the left-hand side, sort of the same thing applies with the facets. We have a number of different facets across those sources. And then within those sources, depending upon whether it's a case or an article or an open question or an answered question or something that was marked as helpful, those facets can be used, searched on, and used to help further refine the search results page. This is a consistent result page that applies across the systems so that users become very familiar with, and it's a consistent experience that they're used to. So prior to Coveo, and one of the things I should also point out, we use a single sign-in architecture protocol using Okta. So all of our customers have to be authenticated in order to get into our environment. We have a public-facing website that customers and that all users can get to, but if they want to get into the collaboration area, the support area, the systems that customers would typically do business with, they authenticate themselves through their Okta credentials, they log into the environment, and then they can get to any one of these systems. And prior to our launch of Coveo, when someone would come into the Ellucian hub through Okta, they could go to the support center, they could go to Ellucian.com and our CMS and software downloads and e-communities. They could go to all of those separate systems and search. But it involves the customer having to know where the content resides in order to know to go to that system to do their search. And that's the use case, one of the many that we're looking to solve. We want to remove the customer having to know where the content resides. That's the key here. You should not have to know where the material is that I'm looking for. I should just be able to have a search interface and it should be returned to me. So now where we are, and again, this is on our journey, we are not fully realized yet, but because we have the content of Ellucian.com, the support center, and e-communities in the index, we have all of that permissioned and security trimmed, and our leveraging of Okta lets us serve up that content through the search results page, and so that only folks who have access to the content of the support center will see their cases, for example. Or if there are private groups in e-communities, they would only see that group if they are a member of that group. So by us leveraging Okta and working with the Coveo index, we're able to adhere to and respect the security and the permissions that those users have. A little forward-looking, the yellow box here, I talked about our roadmap. And we have a number of systems that we want to bring into this index. And so right now we are targeting our shared code repository and our software downloads. Again, we're a software and services company. Our customers download software through our website, but they only are allowed access to software that they're entitled to. And so we want to bring those software release assets into the index. Additionally, our customers are doing a lot of modifications to our solutions, and they want to share those with one another. So, there's Bitbucket, GitHub, all of these different shared code repositories. We're looking to bring in the content of Bitbucket into our index so that if someone has developed a modification for transcript printing and it's something to be publicly shared, they could share that with one another and surface that through the search page in the index. So these are the two that I'm highlighting next, and working again with our team, with these vendors, and with the Coveo team to figure out what the timeline is for that and how we get to that point. So it's a journey, and our journey continues. I'm not sure that we're ever going to be done. When I put this slide together, I said, well, are we ever going to get here? And I said that it's realized, but in reality, we're a number of years out. Hopefully everything would be flowing through the Coveo index and we'd be, done. But we're never really done because, a few years there'll be a new software solution, there'll be an upgrade to a system. We might decide to migrate to another solution for our learning management system or for our training solution. So there's more integrations and there's more work. But conceptually, when we get to a point where we have all of our customer-facing systems through the index, this is what it would look like, and I think this is what is helping drive us and helping us focus our planning. So that was the first driver for our implementation of Coveo. The second driver we talked about was case deflection. And case deflection is, I think, is like snipe hunting, because everybody has a different definition for what case deflection means for their organization. And depending upon the architecture and the structure of your organization, case deflection may be a bit easier to measure than in other organizations. So for us, case deflection and trying to get to that magic number, that elusive case deflection number, has also been a journey. And I would say that through the Coveo tool and through working with folks at Coveo, we've been able to get a better understanding of case deflection. It's also helped us sharpen our focus and definition of what case deflection means to Ellucian. So as I talk about case deflection, this is going to be my perspective and my company's perspective on case deflection. And a takeaway would be for you all to think about what case deflection might mean for your organization, because I think depending upon the structure and how you're set up, I think it could be quite different. But what we wanted to be able to do was index the content across all of our systems so that we could start to provide a case deflection experience. We wanted to be able to offer that in a self-service mode. We firmly believe that's part of our unified customer experience. And then we also launched, and this is part of our implementation, a specific case deflection page through and with Coveo, and we have rebranded it the Ellucian Support Case Create page. So basically within our CRM, when someone goes to create a case, we now launch a new case create page that's leveraging the materials from the Coveo index and offering a case deflection opportunity that is much more positive and much more, we're able to calculate based on that, and we're able to offer a much better case deflection opportunity than what we previously had. So what does it look like? With 3 pieces of information, we can offer a case deflection opportunity to a customer. And there are 3 pieces of information that our customers are routinely comfortable with and used to in terms of providing to us as part of the case creation experience. So we have, we have product lines, which are part of our ERP solutions. And then we have product names. And those are 2 critical pieces of information because we have over 150 different products and solutions. So it stretches across a number of ERPs as well as other platform solutions. So we need to have those 2 key pieces of information. Customers are routinely experienced in providing that. And then the third piece is simply the subject. What is your problem? So it's not intrusive. It's not overly cumbersome for a customer to fill out those pieces of information. And when they do, recommended solutions will appear on the right-hand side of the case creation page. Now, this is not to be confused with the recommendations that we've been learning about this morning as part of machine learning. But there is obviously some parallels that we can see. But here, and we've sort of designed this and control what appears, we show the user recommended solutions for this particular subject, and we will, and it's kind of hard to see and I apologize, but we will give them articles if they're available, cases, ideas, documentation, etc. We have metadata over here on the right to kind of give them a clue as to what it is. The search term is highlighted in line so they have some context about what it is. We give them an article number, the product line, the product, and we give them little icons to hopefully give them a clue as to whether it's a case or an idea or an article. So we try to give them some visuals throughout so as to give them a clue as to what that bit of recommended solution content is. And hopefully, and this is a pretty generic search term, transcript printing, but the more detailed the user puts in for a subject, particularly like an error message or something else, the recommended solutions that are going to be returned are going to be much more relevant and much more germane to the term that was put in for the subject. Go ahead.
Go back one.
Yep.
So you don't search from the description. Anything they put in there doesn't pull anything up?
It can add to it, but those are the only 3 required pieces.
Oh, required. Okay. Thank you.
So the third piece and the third driver for our launch and implementation of Coveo was on the analytics and metrics side. Again, we launched in March of 2016. Full disclosure, prior to Coveo, our metrics collection was poor, to be perfectly honest. We just did not have the kinds of information and the data to support the enterprise in a way that we needed it to be able to analyze what was happening. So it's difficult for us to sort of compare before. We have information on kind of obviously what we've done since, but prior to this, we didn't have a really effective way to measure that. Since we've gone live, our progress is growing and trending in the right direction. We, with regular cadence, see more and more searches happening, more and more positive things happening, and with the launch of machine learning and a couple of other things that we've done as we've continued our journey with Coveo, we continually see improvements in our case deflection numbers. So let's talk about this. And this is where I will give you the Ellucian perspective on what we consider case deflection and maybe give you some things to think about for your organization. So we have a concept called confirmed case deflection and assumed case deflection. And you might say, well, are you splitting hairs there? What does that mean? So I'll jump back to our search page. What you don't see on the case creation page is at the very bottom, and I just didn't have enough real estate, but at the very bottom there, if the item or if the information that I've completed on the case creation page is not presented in a recommended solution such that I can abandon the case creation process, I have a submit button down there to submit that case. But if what I found does resolve my case, I can click on cancel, and then I can exit out of the case creation page. Everybody with me? So for us, that's a confirmed case deflection. I was on the case create page, I filled in the required information, I saw the recommended solutions, and I canceled out of it because I found what I was looking for. We feel pretty solid that that is a case deflection. And every organization is different, and the way that they compute case deflection can run the gambit from something very conservative to something a little less conservative. We're a pretty conservative company. We like to be grounded in the numbers and really feel like what we're talking about it represents what's happening with our customers. So that for us is a confirmed case deflection. Assumed case deflection is very similar, except if a user was on the case creation page, completed the 3 required fields, maybe they saw their recommended solution, but maybe they didn't hit cancel, but maybe they just escaped out of the browser. Maybe they shut it down, they left for whatever reason. They didn't actually hit cancel. So we like to believe that that's a case deflection action as well, but we are sort of looking at those through a slightly different lens. Is it that the person just didn't see the cancel? They didn't want to bother to hit cancel, just easier to hit the escape key, hit escape out of the browser, whatever it might be. But we feel, and those two things are tracked differently within Coveo, and that's a good thing, because for us it gives us, again, a different view of those two scenarios. But we believe that the assumed case deflection and the confirmed case deflection in total is really what we would consider our total case deflection. It's the total of those two actions. But we understand, and we as an organization understand, that the composition of those numbers are made up of two slightly different scenarios. Make sense? So what we see here, and I apologize that it's a bit of an eye chart, but what we see here is that since we launched last year, our case deflection percentage is continually increasing, albeit slow. We believe it's steady, and we believe that it's accurate, in that customers are getting more comfortable with our solution, and more importantly, as we've turned on machine learning, as we've addressed content gaps, as we've refined the results, and as we've learned more about the Coveo tool itself, we're getting better, and we're able to offer that, and customers are finding things better, finding things more, and being able to leverage the tool better. So now there's a third piece in, I won't call it case deflection, but I'll sort of, we've called it eSearch success. And that is the case deflection page, the case create page, is an opportunity to intercept or deflect a case at the point in time when someone would create one. But we also, I'm a firm believer that because we have content indexed from our website, from our community solution, and other content within our CRM, that as people are searching and using eSearch, and remember, eSearch is the only search we have. We have replaced the Salesforce search. We've replaced the Jive search. So those searches don't exist. The only search we have is through the Coveo index, because we put that at the top of the application in the header. We firmly believe that there are successful search actions and successful search activities happening throughout the enterprise that are also impacting case deflection. It's just that they didn't start on the case creation page, if that makes sense. So someone comes in, they look for something, they might have created a case, but they didn't because they just used the regular search box, and therefore they found what they were looking for. They didn't have to create a case. But how do you measure that? Okay? Our click-through is continually getting better. And I think this is a key that is a plug, if you will, for machine learning. Because when we started last year, we were hovering at around 36%, something like that, for a click-through rate. And then we turned on machine learning, and we steadily started to see our click-through percentage increase. Okay, and we were pretty happy with that, and we're continuing to grow and trending in the right direction. The little blip that you see here over on the right, and you see March 17 special characters disabled. You might wonder, well, what's going on with that? So, and it took us a while to figure out this issue, but again, with the Coveo team's assistance, we were able to identify, and this may be unique to Ellucian, but in a lot of our search strings and a lot of our content, we have special characters like percents, ampersands, all of the special characters that you can think of in our content for releases, for cases, for articles, for lots of different things. And in the Coveo engine, a lot of times special characters are used to control and to further refine queries. So they're action characters that do specific things that were not necessarily recognized in our searches. So we actually wanted to turn off special characters because we wanted the special characters to be recognized as regular strings to be searched on and not actionable characters. So we turned that off, and now we're starting to see our click-through rate once again starting to increase. So we're pretty pleased with where that is trending and where we're tracking. So because we've had good success on our global search and our click-through rates are increasing, we believe that all of those successful searches will have an impact on case deflection. But how do we measure it? So again, my hypothesis, we're taking a very, very conservative estimate. And we know the number of successful searches that we have. We took a very conservative estimate and said that if we took 3% of all of the successful searches that are happening and attributed it as a case deflection activity, we see our case deflection number jump up. The last detailed analysis that we did was for April. We're up to around 21%. So we're pretty happy with where we're trending and where we're going, and the fact that customers are starting to use the tool, and the fact that we are able to offer them more information for their search experience. So again, this chart is representing the confirmed case deflection plus the assumed case deflection for the total, and then injecting a very conservative 3% of successful search across the platform to come up to about a 21% case deflection. So we're continuing to validate this all the time. And this is just, again, numbers for Ellucian, but it gives you some perspective as to how we're doing it. And again, maybe it would resonate with some of you in the audience in terms of how to compute it. It does require regular care and feeding. This is not something you just turn on and you let it go and, oh, wow, we've got search now, everybody can find what it is that they're looking for. We spend a lot of time on a regular basis, once a week, going through and looking at what's happening within the platform, what is the system telling us, and then taking a look also at the content gap. And the content gap analysis is the process by which Coveo can tell you those searches that people are executing where nothing is found. It's a gap. So why do you have that gap? Well, that's an opportunity to start to figure out, do I need a knowledge article? Is something mislabeled? What can I do to address that gap? It's almost like whack-a-mole, because each week you're going to get presented with a different set of content gaps, and as you continually work through the list and address those things, you know, that one would fall off the list and then something else will come up. And you have the number of hits, and you can tell, and it gives you sort of the priority of the content gaps. What are the things that are searched for most for which there was no content found? And those are your high ticket items that if you can address and they get solved, then they become successful searches and hopefully can impact case deflection. Question?
I have a question about search activity and relevance. So how does your testing look like? What are your test cases when you implement, say, maybe a new connector, or you show disabling special characters and stuff? Do you have like a set of search terms that you use as test cases? How do you test your implementation?
Well, the one thing, well, I shouldn't say the one thing. When we launched machine learning, we did A/B testing. So that was an excellent way to sort of prove the effectiveness of what was happening for that. We have not done a new connector since we launched, but to your point, what we do typically is we have, I don't want to say a set of searches, but we know sort of the areas in which customers are doing a lot of different searches for specific kinds of content, whether it's special characters, releases, exact search terms, things of that sort. We have test plans. I don't know that we have certainly all of the cases, obviously, that customers are going to use, but we have the majority of use cases for which we receive most of our questions from customers that we try to execute. We have a sandbox where we do all of our testing before we go production. Typical kinds of things that most organizations would do.
Yeah, and you mentioned failed searches as searches where results were not found. Do you consider a failed search where the user did not click on any search result? Is that a failed search in your opinion?
Well, a failed search for our analysis is where a search term is entered and nothing is found. So those are the things that we're addressing. We haven't actually had a position on if they've done a search without a click-through. Interesting. So again, the regular care and feeding to look at what the system is telling you and making sure that you regularly review the analysis, and that I think will improve what your search results look like to customers, and ultimately, factor into customer sat. As I mentioned, we don't have another search option. So when we launched, we did extensive testing. I have customer advisory boards. We had pre-production areas. But when we launched, we sort of launched. And with something that's hitting 50,000 users, you're just never quite sure what's going to happen. And I have a theory that if you put something out there and you don't hear anything, one of two things. Your customers aren't using it, or everything's working fine, you're not hearing from them, and that's fine too. Because search was the only game in town, eSearch was it. They had no other option. They had to use it, and we weren't hearing from them. We knew we were on the right track. So, and customers, I don't know if your customers are like ours, but customers are not overly complimentary. If there's a problem, you'll hear from them. If things are going well, if it's as expected, and if they're happy, then you don't hear from them, and that's fine. I get that. We didn't hear from them. I've had folks email me one-off with quotes that I won't read to you, but that you can see on the screen. But generally, the concept and what we're trying to do in our vision, not only for search, but for the entire unified customer experience, is resonating with our customers. We firmly believe that we're on the right track, and now it's just executing the next connector, the next connector, the next connector, and then bringing in the query capabilities when they execute a search to give query suggestions. The recommender on the right-hand side, we're going to be working to bring that into our search page. And then leveraging all of that as we create our portal and dashboard to be able to provide recommended content since you last visited us. All of those kinds of things, I think, are all opportunities that we now have based on some of the roadmap opportunities that Coveo rolled out this morning. So I'm looking forward to those next steps. So what is next? So I talked about a couple of the solutions that we want to bring into the index. Our software download area. Again, someone types in banner student release 9. That's one of our products. So they should be able to find that through the index, get to the software download, pull the source files down, and be on their way. Instead of having to log into, we use Flexera for that. Code repository, sharing of code. If I type in 1099 customization, if someone's developed a modification for a 1099, I should be able to surface that through our code repository through the Coveo index. And our CMS, we've got content all over the place, probably like many of you. We've got it in Salesforce, we've got it in our website, we've got it in Drupal sites and SharePoint. We want to be able to have a common CMS and then be able to leverage that content into Coveo. So that's on our roadmap. And then the last point, continued review and analysis of deflection. And this gets back to the regular cadence of reviewing content gaps, the regular review of the analysis of deflection, and just constantly watching what's happening and be able to address things, performance, and all the things that are happening in the environment. It's a extremely powerful, I always say it's extremely powerful tool set. It's extremely complicated. And in some ways, it does take a village. There are 4 of us. It's not our full-time job, but we have 4 people that work in various aspects of understanding and analyzing what's going on in Coveo. So it does take a team. We rely on each other, and but in general, it's been a very effective tool for our customers in offering them the next evolution in our experience and our journey. How am I doing on time?
You got a few minutes for sure. You got some time for questions.
I've got a question on internal stakeholders. Did you have to pitch this to a variety of internal stakeholders and sell them on the value of this to adopt this unified search approach?
So I'll repeat the question for those in the back. The question was about internal stakeholders and what sort of buy-in did we have to get from them to launch this. So we had a very targeted approach in the first systems that we rolled out with communities, with CRM, and with the website. So we didn't bring in all of the stakeholders because their systems and solutions are not impacted. So the ones that were impacted, we brought in, sort of talked about what the initiative was all about. It's really not, it's not a hard sell. When you talk about what it is that you're trying to do, they made a, we talked about the vision, we talked about the strategy, and we talked about the solutions, and those initial stakeholders were involved in the initial selection of Coveo. We had about 8 systems that we looked at. We narrowed it down to 4, we narrowed it down to 2, and ultimately selected Coveo. That initial team of stakeholders was involved in that process. The others will just have to come along the Coveo journey with us. But quite frankly, it's been a positive experience for customers. So it's really more about when can I get into the index as opposed to no, I don't want to.
What were some of the technology challenges that you faced as you onboarded portal after portal and property after property onto Coveo's index?
Well, we were lucky and we were very targeted in our initial launch because our corporate website was a pretty easy connector. And out-of-the-box connectors with Coveo included Salesforce and Jive. And we used articles, cases, ideas, documentation. So those were all connector pieces that were part of it. Same thing with Jive. It had the Jive profiles along with the Jive discussions. One challenge we had was with some of the private group content and making sure that we could access that in the correct way, leveraging Okta. But we were able to work not only with Jive, but with Coveo to get that piece resolved. And I think that was probably, I think that was it. And then the launch of the header, because we were actually taking the search out of Salesforce and taking the search out of Jive. But those were interactions that we had with those organizations that weren't necessarily Coveo specific issues, but they were things, they were things that we wanted to do because we want one search experience, we want one search interface. We don't want to have multiple, search models that people have to go to. So our, removing the search area from Salesforce and Jive, I don't want to say was difficult, but we just needed to coordinate with those organizations and get that done. We're Jive hosted. We do have a little bit of a future forward-looking issue when we want to go to Jive Cloud, but we're still working with Jive to try to get that wrestled down. But
we'll take one more question from down there, and then I'm sure Jamie's going to be around this evening and would love to continue this answering any questions that we don't get to today.
You mentioned that there's 4 people on your team that kind of continually refine and work on the solution itself. What roles or titles are those people? We're trying to help educate our customers around what they need to do organizationally to be able to support this long term. And so,
great question. So I report up through the customer success department within my company, and 3 of my peers are also in customer success. I have a lot of business experience with Jive, so I tend to focus on the Jive side a little bit more. And we have a coworker of mine focuses a lot on the Salesforce side. And then we have another coworker that focuses on knowledge management. And then the 4th person is in our IT. He's our technical lead, and so he does a lot of like the UI, the technical changes, index work, source work, things like that. So it's basically 3 functional, 1 technical.